In my video last week about appeal, I cited several examples of some appealing and not so appealing characters, namely Bumblebee from Transformers, Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, and Knack. But there are two huge sources of appealing characters that I intentionally left out of the video last week. Did you figure out what they are? I mean, did you see the thumbnail? There's so much to say about appeal that I figured a part 2 was in order. Now, last week we talked about how appeal means different things to different people, and an appealing character to one person is subjective. It's not necessarily appealing to someone else. Overall, though, we talked about how appeal means making a character visually appetizing, and personally, my definition for appeal has to do with the flow between the various shapes in a character and how that contributes to their overall unity. We also established that a cute-looking character is not the only kind of appealing character, but those are going to be the bulk of our examples in this video. The examples that we're pulling are going to be from two big sources of appealing characters, Disney and Nintendo. Both of these companies have a history of designing extremely appealing characters, the standard, if you will, for simple and cute. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time to explore some of the methodology behind them. Part of appeal is the simplicity and clarity of a character. The faster we can visually digest a character and understand them, the faster we can form an opinion about them. And the interesting thing about this is, in the inverse, the longer it takes for us to form that opinion or register the character, it's more likely that our opinion is going to be less than positive. It's the opposite of how we feel when something is creepy or unsettling. Maybe it's taking a lot longer for us to register something because it isn't clear to us, or something is hidden and therefore possibly a danger. Now, neither of these examples is necessarily creepy, but most of you will be instantly drawn to one of these two characters because of the simplicity, the clarity, and the appeal. Now, one of these two characters is just a piece of construction equipment, but I hope it makes sense that the shapes and the makeup of a face and body are all quickly readable. When we're able to grok that character, we're able to feel for them, hear what they have to say, or root for them that much easier. Another advantage of simplicity is that it actually leaves more room for the imagination. Personification is the act of giving something that's non-human, human qualities. That includes fictional and created characters, even human ones. When we personify a simple and appealing character, we actually fill in some of the blanks mentally, and might even assume the best. Now, this is similar to how sometimes we'll prefer the book to a movie because we prefer the visuals that were in our head versus the ones that we saw on screen. An appealing, clear character is one that we project onto on a personal level. I won't spoil a moment from Incredibles 2 because it just came out and you should definitely go see it, but there is one moment where a character sees themselves in someone else, and on a fundamental child-raising level, it just makes sense that they would then care more and be more invested. That's the main point with a lot of this too, is that an appealing character tends to come off as non-threatening. So oftentimes, when you see an appealing character, it's meant to tell you that everything is fine. So when Disney and Nintendo create broadly appealing family entertainment, the assumption that some people make is that it's just for kids. And yeah, some of what they make is specifically aimed at young children. But the reason that it's relatively okay for kids, or sometimes assumed in general to just be for them, is again in part because it's non-threatening. Little kids don't want to be threatened, and their parents also don't want them to be threatened, or to grow up too fast. So when they see a character that's cute or appealing, that means that it's safe. Part of this appealing design language was born out of necessity. It's simply faster and easier to animate a character who is simple in their makeup. This appeal factor causes some people to become cynical though, and maybe it has something to do with saturation. Yes, we get it, going to Disney World is expensive, you're breaking new ground there, Copernicus. And some people are just generally weary of appealing looking characters in general for whatever reason. And in a bizarre twist, they've become threatened by something that was initially meant to be non-threatening. This comes back to something that we talked about last week, the comparison to food. Appeal is making something visually appetizing. Food can be visually appetizing, but food that looks appetizing doesn't necessarily mean that it tastes good or is good for you. Appeal is simply a tool, and tools can be used for good or for bad. Plenty of imitators, both in visual storytelling and elsewhere, have caught on to creating Disney-esque characters to sell you on something that either doesn't match the original quality or straight up lies to you about being threatening. Hide under your desks from the atomic bomb, just like this cute turtle, kids. Everything's fine. I mean, imagine how unethical it would be to put a cute, appealing-looking character on a can of rat poison, or a book of matches. A lot of other visual storytellers adapt ideas from Disney and Nintendo that aren't necessarily exclusive to them. How did Minions become so popular? I don't know, maybe we're just lacking for animated features in 2010. Oh. Even the Minions were born from a need to create characters that were easy to model and to animate due to budget and time constraints. At this point, characters who are designed with a lot of the same Disney-esque methodology are commonplace, and sure, people can get cynical about them. But Disney and Nintendo are leading their industries for a reason. The things that they're making are resonating with the most amount of people, which is kind of doubling down on our lesson from last week. No, you don't need to straight up copy these companies in order to make good characters. But scoffing at the idea of appeal and making appealing characters and insisting on making something obtuse is, well, being obtuse. You don't have to aim for the broadest possible audience, but understanding what things people already like, breaking down why that is, and incorporating some of it into your own work isn't a homogenization, a dilution, or an erosion of what you're making. You're simply learning how to best use a tool. That's it for me today. I'm making new videos every week on Character Design Forge. Subscribing on YouTube lets you know when new videos are made available. If you'd like to follow me on other platforms, I'm Bagel Denizen on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. If you'd like to support me and this channel, you can go to patreon.com/bageldenizen and get a ton of things in return, including the $5 Novice Bard Critiques, where I will make a personalized video critique of your work to help you level up in your art. Thank you so much for watching, and have fun creating.